Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 31st episode of the HSBG podcast. I'm your host, Educatedcollins. I almost said Shady Bunny there. Wow. And I'm here with my constant co-host, Shady Bunny. Shady, how are you doing?
Well, tired, but well. How about you, Collins?
I am the same. Pretty much. It's been a long week for both of us, I think, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about today. But today I'm a little bit more tired than I normally am. I said that also last week too. I think I remember. I was also, but that was because I was just starting. That was like the first day.
Yeah.
I had a different schedule, so it's been a week of it. It doesn't feel like a week. We're like going. I'm skipping sections right now, but like,
No,
the days have sped up since I started doing this. It's like, damn, the day's gone. The day's gone.
Yeah.
I was like, didn't even do anything. It's really quick now that we got this schedule on. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But first topic, we always start with the Battlegrounds weekly overview. But really, the overview is just another topic because our weeks have been very similar for some reason. I'm sure we're going to talk about it in the future, but we've, generally I've been having a fun time. Kind of almost feel like I'm relearning the meta, which is kind of interesting. Or kind of getting my kinks fixed, I think, There's a hammer. Yeah, there's a hammer called Shady, and he's.
Don't buy that trash. Level, go.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So, yeah, that's good. But we're gonna pretty much be spending most of this podcast kind of talking about what we've done this week. But overall, it's been a nice week, I think, and gonna be a lot of fun. So usually we talk about a particular hero, a particular minion. That's not really going to change this week. Shady had an idea for a hero, but I said no. So you're not getting that one this week. So
Not yet.
yeah, not yet. But this,
Still working on the data. We need a larger sample size. Yeah, et cetera, et cetera.
I really don't think we do. I just don't want them to know it. So let's just be honest. But the hero we will be talking about, however, this week is Blackthorne. So I think he's a pretty interesting hero. He only comes in with Quillbores are in. I think that's something that is really important with this hero that kind of gives him some underrepresented power, something to think about when you see this hero. You're like, oh, Quillbores are always in with this. So there's been me actually even playing a lot. There's a really nice window, I guess, or opportunity to get to 4, and start making like a really streamlined mech composition. But the problem with like leveling to tier 4 is a lot of times you take a lot of damage, and really Blackthorne's real value is just being able to ramp super fast, mitigate damage a lot, especially if you get some very key strong early game tier 1 units, and then just using that health advantage to kind of get the pieces before other people can really find their comp, and then streamlining, fixing it up, making it shine from there. So I wasn't really rating this hero that high, I would say, before this week, right? I gotta say, a lot of my hero ratings have changed drastically this 1 week. It's so crazy, actually. But yeah, I wasn't rating this hero really that much that well. But after playing a lot of these games and just looking at it, seeing how effective it can be, I really do like what this hero provides, especially in the early game. And there are some like little synergies just because you get blood gems. Maybe you need like 4 extra attack. You have a Earthshaker on your board. You're just like, okay, I just level here, for 2 or 3 gold sometimes in the late game. And you're just like, okay, pump. I should be able to deal with the elemental player or something like that. Something really. So there's some extra value there, but really the early game is where the hero power shines. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think you summed it up nicely. I guess the specifics of the curve we like to follow in this meta is a Jeef curve, which means you level on 5 and 6 gold instead of 4 and 7 gold. 4 and 7 is the standard of going to 3. Chief Curve gets the tier 3 a turn early, which is nice to get access to cards like Gem Splitter, Deflectobot. So you'll rate Blackthorne a lot higher when mechs are in, because there's not that much reason to speed level to tier 4 if mechs are out. You can take your time a bit more, because the cards you're going to want when mechs are out are more just like, well, I'm going to need a Mama Bear, or I'm going to need to triple into Eliza or so, and rushing to tier 4 isn't really going to help you that much with it. The cool thing you talked about is with a Jeeve curve, you get to tier 3 on 6 gold. So that means on 7 gold, you have your first real shop where you get to buy the units you want. And Blackthorne's power indeed is, if that 7 gold shop is bad, it's very easy to just say, oh, I'll just level. And then on 7 gold, you'll be on tier 4. And on an 8 gold, instead of, most of the people that go to tier 4 fast are there on 8 gold, but they can't buy yet. You're there on 8 gold, and you have 8 gold that you can spend on tier 4 units. So it just increases the chance that you get bang for your buck, so to speak. And the hero power means that you take minimal damage doing so. The card we're going to talk about in a bit, Puppot, is a great synergy, because you can just slam all the gems on the Puppot and you have this huge Divine Shield. And if you have the right matchmaking, you'll be surprised just how healthy you arrive on tier 4 if you got the Divine Shield to jam all the gems on. So it's really a hero that does a very specific thing, and if the meta rewards that specific thing, this guy gets a lot better. So right now, I would say with cards like Grease Spots, with cards like Gem Splitter, going to tier 4 is extremely rewarding. So when going to tier 4 is rewarding, this guy gets a lot better.
Yeah, another reason why like these curves are really working out really well is because people are like, they've kind of changed how they curve or how they move, right? People have different looks in how they curve, right? People will sometimes just stay on 1 for like 5 turns, right? And Dumbo level, right? And if they're staying on 1, right, they're not punishing you, right? They have like tokens on the board, yeah, blah blah blah, right? So you have like 1 big minion. That's enough to deal with all their random tokens on the board, and you're just like, oh, here's where normally people would have spawns and random rat pack, blah blah blah. They just have tokens. Like, who cares about that? I'm not taking any damage. I might even beat them. So and then a lot of people are also following the same curve as you. So if both people are doing the same curve, you guys are not taking that much damage because you have very similar boards, similar power states. So you'll
have the edge because of the gems as well.
Yeah. So because people have transitioned really away from the standard level on 2, buy 2 drops, level on 3, buy 3s, right? People are doing a lot of different curves, which have a lot slower early game in terms of like that big power double spawn roll. You're not I haven't seen someone with a double spawn in how many games, right? Like, people just don't roll.
Mech games, basically. Yeah. I do it some. Like, we had that Lich King game, for instance, today,
right,
where that could have very easily been a double. We would have loved for that to be a double spawn game.
Right.
That's what mechs are out.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, then there's not that much incentive to rush to 4.
Yeah, but you're not picking this hero and things like that. So you've got that big advantage of, oh, people aren't really being that strong when I would get punished, and now with this extra power level, I just either win the round outright, or I'm just as strong, or slightly weaker than the opponents as I rep. So it's really nice, just due to the nature of how the meta has changed a little bit, that you can get away with these curves and just feel strong, feel good, get to a good position in a healthy state, and then go from there. So I think if mechs are in with this hero, really, really strong to just get a nice early tier 4, and then just try to fix your board from there, right? Like, that's like the one difficulty or like skill test where you have to know what to do once you get there, and you're like, okay, what's valuable here? What do I want to skip? Da 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 da. But other than that, pretty solid hero. I really like it. Che, you kind of alluded to it, but the minion we will be talking about is Puppot. One of the better minions to synergize with Jeeve Curve if you are wanting to use that strategy a lot, just because having a divine shield early is really nice in that it kind of already fits the composition you're trying to run. In that, oh, you find a gem splitter, it's auto activated. You find a grease spot, oh, I already have something to scale with. It's also a mech, right? So it opens up deflectors, right? You can find a menace, taunt this, put a menace on it, bam, you have a consistent reset, right? Makes your deflectors a lot more less RNG, where you know you're going to get at least one reset for your from your deflectors. If you have two deflectors, right? Really, really consistent early. So just a nice unit. There's a lot of heroes as well that I feel become really playable just because pup bots in the games. Because the one that jumps out to me is Banana Man, Mukula, right? You just start hero powering, like you have two pup bots, you hero power, right? In like 5-6 turns, you can have two 10-10s, pup bots. Disgusting. Like that is a comp. That Daryl is salivating, right? With that level of power, you're not really doing anything too difficult. You just found two pup bots in the early game, so there's a lot of like little heroes, right? Edwin as well, that can just like have a pup bot or two. Oh, I have a pretty large divine shield minion, not really working too hard at it. So I do think this edition really changed how the early game can feel, just how strong you can get an early tier 1 minion to be represented. And there's a lot of games where you can just run this pup bot through the whole game. You buy this turn 1 and you just have it the whole game. It's not a problem. You get a grease spot somewhere, it's like a 20 attack, minion without really trying, and it's just like a core part of your composition. So just a really strong card, has a lot of synergies, and just just something I wanted to talk about here, just how valuable it can be, especially in this meta. I think as the meta has really settled, a lot of people have really figured out that mechs are strong, not just Omega. Yeah, not just Omega is strong, but just mechs in general are really strong. So this can help complement that strategy really well. So if you want to.
I had this insane Mukla game just now where I started with a token and I just like bought, sold, hero power, 2 big bananas. Next turn, buy a pup pot, 2 big bananas. The turn after, level again, 2 big bananas. The turn after that, sell the token, level, regular banana, big banana. So
Doesn't
it's
seem
like
fair.
yeah. So I Jeep curved and went straight to 4 and had like a 17-16 on my board. I was like, holy shit, this is insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are some silly numbers. Daryl's another one where it's just an
right.
easy
Yeah,
dance
that's
target.
very true.
There's this new thing people do where they stay on one, and I've been doing it a little bit, but not really the way how they do it. I think a lot of the people I've seen that stay on one, they actually go for the tier 1 curve where you get a triple and you double level and they get a 5-drop and then they're on tier 4. But I really
you get a
like playing
5-drop.
Daryl. Yeah.
What about they
remember
just get a 4 there?
Yeah, like I like getting the 4. So what has worked really well for me is if I get a micro mummy or a pup bot pair, for instance, you can dance on the third one, and then suddenly you'll have a big one, you triple, and then if you're going for a 4, you can get the grease spot, you can get a module. There's a lot of interesting things there that you can work with. You can even get like a ground shaker, and then every bacon you pick up is plus 2 attack or plus 4 attack to your board. So there's definitely a lot of applications to use this minion, and it's like you said, this minion can be in your final 7 very, very consistently, because it's almost like it's a bit too strong. Like you introduce a mech divine shield unit on tier 1, but it doesn't feel oppressive. But it's just like this unit makes it into endgame comps very consistently. Maybe you have cards like a rock pool that gets buffed like crazy, or you have this trickster, but this unit is probably by far the most consistent minion that makes it into endgame comps. And that's just because divine shield is one of the things you want in the endgame. And with all the
Early
ways
game
we
as
have right
well.
now, Yeah, sure, at any point of the game, yeah, but it's less relevant when your opponent has an icky imp that just,
Yeah, I
like,
agree. Yeah, that's the one
destroys your
issue.
front body. You're like, oh, my shield didn't do much. But later in the game, people, they will get rid of those cards, and there'll be this just 2020. Like one of the most satisfying feelings is when you're going up against Murlocs and it's 7 Murlocs, 0 shields, and you just have your shields with ground chain. You're like, oh, every shield is gonna 2-for-1 a Murloc, or you're fighting Quillboars and it's pure Quillboar. They just have this big duo, but you have this giant deflect that just go like bam, right? Either one shots that are, 3/4 of its health is already gone, and you're gonna get the reset and do that again. And that was by far the biggest minion. So shields are just so good. There's obviously the counter to that, which when dragons are in, Prestor is an incredible counter. But most of the time, the majority of the lobby doesn't have a Prestor. A lot of the lobby is going to have 1 or 2 shields of their own, so they're not really going to want to invest in ghouling you. So it's just incredibly valuable to be able to buy a unit and keep it into your composition the whole time. If you pick up a menace, like you mentioned, you can just Argus it, and suddenly it's this reliable deflecto resetter. So just a really nice minion if you have any way of buffing, right? Like we mentioned, being a Daryl, being an Edwin, being a Blackthorne, being a Mukla. And even if not, this is not quite as strong as Acolyte, but it's okay-ish, right? You're like, sure, I'll put that on my board, and some minions it'll handle even better than an Acolyte because of the Divine Shield.
The reason you're saying the taunt's better, essentially.
Yeah, so you have the taunt, which really enables the avenge stuff, and Acolyte can also hit a 1/1 and not lose its first charge, whereas Puppot will always be like 2 damage, 2 damage. Acolyte is also 2 damage, 2 damage, but sometimes it's 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage, right? So 6 damage instead of 4. So, but if you have any synergy, right, the Puppot quickly starts to run away with it, because once you have a buff,
one blood gem, one blood gem.
Yeah, 1 blood gem then is better.
Yeah, very strong, useful minion. You do see a lot just because it's very synergistic with the meta. So definitely wanted to talk about that. But moving on to the main topic of the podcast, our co-op adventures. So this week I have been pretty much waking up at 4 a.m. Great for me. But I plan to do it. I really wanted to kind of relearn the meta. I felt like I wasn't really super crazy invested, and I wanted to be, to kind of grind things out, get a feel for what I wanted to do, play a bit. And it's always I noticed Shady's has been grinding it super hard, recently, and I was like, damn, I like that. Kind of want to see. So we used to play a ton of arena back in the day. We would co-op and stuff like that. So we have like this prior experience to work at. So it's not necessarily the hardest thing. Definitely there's been some like some learning pains or growing pains, just like kind of figuring out how best do I want to apply both of our skill sets in each of these games. But I really do think like over time and consistently doing it, we've really been getting a feel of how to kind of pilot the games well, and like realize, and having someone there to be like, okay, I like this play. Oh, I don't like this play. Well, have you thought about this play? Oh, what about if we do this play? What do you think about that? If done well, done quickly, and done, in the right manner, it can be really, really powerful, right? Like, obviously, if you guys try it at home and you try to do it, you'll be like, damn, this is very confusing. We just mess up. There's no time, right? But over time, like, with the experience we have, we can get it to work. So it's been pretty nice. And just overall, my week, I would say I feel like I've learned a lot, just from Shady, just playing, just like he's very skilled, right? So just like even playing with him, even if we're talking about stuff, right? Just sometimes he'll say something, I'll be like, that's something I haven't thought about yet. And I'll be like, wow, just a quick like information gathering there or something that I've really sometimes when you play out by yourself and you're doing your own set of ways, you're not really stopping to think about, is this insane, or like, is this like a play that I haven't thought about, but really can be the difference maker in whether I take like 10 less damage in the next 2 rounds or something like that, right? And those things really add up, especially in this meta where, sometimes one bad loss is the difference between like a seventh or a fourth or a second or something like that. Like just one bad random hit, especially when people are very consistent and especially at the highest levels, right? Like one mistake can be like so critical. So it really does help. And I've learned a lot. My hero ratings this week have changed dramatically. Like what I was rating at the beginning of this week and now it's like night and day. Like, damn, I thought this hero was good. What was I thinking? Or this hero is really like undervalued here. Like this is sleeper OP. I've always always taken this one now. Things like that. So there's a lot of learning that I've had, a lot of little things that I've picked up and really starting to see the meta differently. I think that also is something that's happened. Just like I'm looking at the board state, I'm like, Another thing that's happened a lot, I think this is more just me playing nonstop all day, is that I'm just like, okay, so this is what my opponent did turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what my, like, for each of my opponents. Oh, okay, I see the board, I see the number of minions. Okay, I know exactly what their board state is. Once you start going to like tier 7, tier 8, turn 7, turn 8, it's starts becoming wonky because people can high roll the stuff. But knowing when they triple, right, is also really helpful to be like, okay, well, this is very likely, like you have to know what they tripled and then not fight them that same turn, right? I think that's very like, so let's say, okay, they got a 6, right? And then you're not fighting them, but then afterwards you see they have like 3 pirates. Okay, they went Eliza, Now, how do I deal with that, right? So that's been more evident or more prevalent or even more autopiloted just because we have played so much and seen a lot of this stuff. So there's been quite a lot of things, and probably going to continue, playing with Shady for a while. We've been grinding his account basically. trying to keep it respectable. So hopefully we can continue doing that really well. But that's been my overall experience. Probably have a little bit more to talk about though.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously been great. The just having another strong mind next to you when you're making those decisions is just very powerful, because sometimes like the vast majority of plays will do the same, but that goes the same for your opponents. So it's that moment where there's this kind of crazy but also incredibly good line available and one of the players spots it and you go into that direction and you really go like, wow, this is where this game became a first place game. And if I'd played it solo, it would have potentially even been a top 8 because I would not have seen the line. I would not have caught the window to level. I would not have bought that minion, or I would have bought the minion and I would have stayed instead of leveling, or I would have never thought about pushing it in that direction. So that's just been amazing. Yeah. You wanna
like sometimes when we're talking about plays, like there's a lot of times when you're playing, like there's a lot of like autopilot plays, turn 1 till 4, like very similar and stuff like that. But once you get into like the mid game, the real, like the decision making stuff, sometimes there's like the autopilot play and then there's like a play with a little bit of tension where it's like, oh, what about this? There's a little bit of tension there, and that's really interesting, right? Because normally when you're doing plays, everything's like, oh yeah, this makes sense, but as soon as you get up to that point where there's like, oh, what about you're talking to them and it's like, oh, what about this? And there's like there's no immediate like, oh yeah, that's what we do. It's like, oh, there's something to talk about here, where it's like, okay, there is a decision point where there might be branches off in the the multiple universes where you do this and this play, right? There's now a decision where you can really change the outcome of how you're going to play the game, how you're going to win or look in where the game flows from there. And that's really cool in that maybe when you're playing by yourself a lot, you don't have that like other person or other thought process constantly running in the background being like, oh, what about that? There's not a lot of like auto tension because the brain kind of agrees with itself. Like, hey, yeah, what about this play? Yeah, I guess it's great. All right, good job, brain. Let's do that one, right? It's not like, what about this? What about slow down here? What about the other line? Yeah, oh, right, there's another line. Da, da, da. So I really think that's very cool and very interesting whenever it happens and we talk about it. Like, oh yeah, this play. It's amazing because sometimes it's like, I would have never thought about this play by myself. And you would say, I also would have never thought about this play by myself. And we're like, that's weird. What's going on? What's going on there? Right? Neither of us alone would take this line, but together it actually becomes even stronger. And like you start seeing things as we're kind of working it out together to kind of see, oh, there's actually this third line here, which is really cool, but like unusual. But because, we're confident in that with the pilot, we can do it. It's really cool to see. So I always like that. Yeah, it's super fun.
Confidence is a huge factor.
Yeah, in this game. Well. Yeah, it's crazy how I've always thought about that in this game, like how important just being confident in what you're doing and how you're playing is so impactful, because there are some plays where you kind of give up mentally and you just like, well, maybe not some plays, but like some days or some moments where you're just kind of like, you're already defeated in the game. And because of that, you're not taking the like 20%er that can give you the first. You're taking like the 80%, but that maybe you get like 6, but most of the time you'll get like maybe most of the time you'll get 6, but sometimes you'll like get 5th, right? You're going for the safe play, but you know for a fact there's no chance you'll beat like that high roller player. But then if you have someone you're confident, you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for this line, maybe full switch or something into this specific counter just to deal with them. Where if you're like not confident, you're like, you know what, I'll just take my second. I'm not gonna think about it. I'm just gonna die, right? But then you're like, but if you think about it, you have like 2 turns, maybe you're fighting a dead guy, and if you like skill with the board you have no chance. So why are you like even bothering? You're like, oh yeah, maybe I skill fast. Yeah, maybe I just maybe I just auto skill and just like beat him. But this guy has like golden no medium. Like, well, how are you gonna outscale that with your random composition? So it's really interesting how impactful just being confident and knowledgeable and saying, hey, what I'm doing makes no sense in the context of this game. I'm gonna sell my golden brand, put a spore in, and it hurts. It hurts, I tell you, but it's the right line. And yeah, golden brand's great, but it's not gonna win you the game at all, right? So yeah, I do agree.
That was a good game. I guess some stuff we can talk about, right, is maybe like what we each bring to the table. Like if you have more of an idea of like, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and also just, it's like you mentioned earlier, where if 2 people that don't know each other very well start co-oping, the chance that they're going to do better than either of them solo is very small, because there's already so much. Yeah, there's so much to think about that any kind of, it's like when we're playing together and we're both tired, it's awful.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's going too slow. And BGs is really a game where you need to think fast and you need to execute, because a fully executed play that is questionable is probably still way better than the perfect line not fully executed, because there's so much to be gained by like spending all of your gold and not just panic rolling, etc.
I didn't realize how bad I am. Super tired. Like I thought maybe I could get away with it, but damn, it's like night and day. Me playing when I'm tired and when I'm not. It's like, damn. I thought I just autopiloted it worked.
Well, I do that, right? I just start playing autopilot, but then every game
is a struggle. It's hard, right? Like,
yeah, but it would also just be, every game will be a shaker respawn game. Every game, and if it's not in, I'll just do something silly where I'm like, all right, well, we've already, like, I just go in with the mentality. This is the shit lobby. I'm gonna go high roll or I die.
You just force your most comfortable comp. right? Just over and
Yeah, I
over.
just I just force the whole time. Or any hero, like, like Jandis, even though Jandis is not an easy hero to play at all, if I start with token on a Jandis, I can sort of play that blindly almost, where sure, it's not gonna be optimal, but I'm gonna get 2 5-drops and I'm gonna do something with that. And if one of them's a mama bear, oh my god, right? It's just swap the beast, buff the beast, make more triples, got leak cat. Hey, there's a gold rim, bam. And you're there. So and that autopilot gaming kind of goes out the window when you're still copying. So I guess the familiarity helps, where each other, that I'm not afraid to step on your toes, you're not afraid to step on my toes, right? It's just like something needs to be said, you say it, right? Even if you have to interrupt the other person. And if you feel like something is bad, you're not going
I never interrupt.
No, like, when I'm, like this used to be college, right? I've got 2 hoggers on my board. This is a pirate. So I did think I was like, Collins, I know, let me play. So yeah, that's so much better now, by the way. Collins is like, all right, that's the 4th hogger. I'm gonna head out. See you after the game. Yeah. But just the comfort level allows you to skip over a lot of dialogue, where normally you would feel like you'd have to check that with the person you're playing with. So there's a lot of shops, right, where I know like Collins would never want to buy anything here. Just roll. We both know what we're looking for. And that alone is going to speed up the process so much if you do not have. So that's
hilarious. That's so true. Like, like so often I could be like, okay, well, I could suggest this play, but I know Shady would never do that. So why even bother? I'm just gonna move on. This shop, Shady doesn't want anything here. Like sometimes I'm playing my own game and I'll see a shop and I'll be like, Shady would take this right here. Like Shady would take this right here. Like Shady would take. Yeah, I'm just like, you're not even here, but you're kind of playing the game with me. Like, just because I know so much, yeah. So it's
I have the same thing. Like Collins would tell me to take a 6-drop too, for sure. And that is the so I guess part of this, or a lot of this podcast, might be a little bit of a half tutorial, half just us talking about how we play together. If you guys want to try and replicate that, because I think there is great value in that. Where right now I feel like our duo is very strong in just making decisions. If we're both on it,
if there was a duo tournament, oh my god!
Oh my god!
I know it's not fair.
I feel so incredibly comfortable. That'd be so good. Because we have that, like Colin says, we have that. We have those reps from the arena days, where a lot of the language as well is, it's very short. It's like yes, no, go. Take the other one first, like there's very, very little words to convey a lot, instead of having to, use whole sentences to get through the turn. I'd say one of the things I do poorly and that Collins really helps in is optimization. And I feel like as a player, I do that very well compared to the average player, right? If you say like, your plays are pretty polished.
You do average and then shade is.
But then I look at how polished my lines are a lot of the time. Collins's lines are extremely polished, I would say, where the right order will almost always be there. We will maximize our stat gain. We will like play cards first when they need to be played first, etc., etc., etc. And sometimes I feel like I'm a bit more the big picture guy, where I know where we're going and I know what I want. And then Collins will be like, if that's what you want to do it in this way, because this will be more efficient. You'll have more stats. You'll have more chance, right? You level first, you do this.
The reason it's like that, I do agree with you, is because I'm very used to playing BGs and I'm like, okay, I roll once. Okay, I have to figure out what my comps is gonna be in a roll. Okay, I roll again. I gotta figure out what my comps is gonna be. So like every turn, I have to like re-optimize every single option that's possible that makes sense. So it just gets And the difference between like missing a stat, especially in like those critical like one turn moments, could be like, oh, I lost because I died to one stat. So you get very used to being like, I have to make sure it's perfect, otherwise I die. So over time, especially in like the beginning of Battlegrounds, where I just go to 6 and then I just figure it out, go to 5 and figure it out, right? So you just have to make sure like, oh, I gotta squeeze every bit of value because otherwise I'm dead, in that one turn. So you just get very used to it. And I don't necessarily have like a game plan, even the turn before, like one turn I'll have like no board and I have to like make a whole board in one turn. So it's like, okay, roll like that double master realities, right? That's like classic. Oh, I have no clue what the hell I'm doing. Oh, yes, I have to do that. Squeeze that perfectly. Like, that's the kind of stuff where you've got to have those reps in, and like you have to see. And that was it's brilliant. Like, I really like play of the week or something, I think, for me.
So to put it into context, Collins is referring to a game we had earlier where we did not get a token start as Janus, and the game was looking pretty dire. So we went to 5 early because it was also a no mech game. So it was just like, what are we rolling 4 on 4? And in that particular turn, we triple into an Amalgadon.
Yeah.
And then we open, I'm not sure if that was the same turn, but it's over the course of 1 or 2 turns, we open a double Master of Realities.
I think it was the immediate roll in the next turn.
Right. I'm just thinking because it was also Major Domo, right? So it's the essence
you had
of
gold.
The line. Yeah, and the essence of the line is that in one turn where we were 1 loss away from dying, we put double Master of Realities on our board, and we used the Amalgadon as an elemental. But the Amalgadon is everything, so you can use something like a Whelp Smuggler, which was added maybe the turn after that.
No, the same turn. It was disgusting. It was so good.
Oh, okay.
You hear about the Amalgadon trying to hit the Master Realities for free. You hit something else, but
maybe Whelp Smuggler, I don't know.
Something random. But you had the Major Domo. You saw the Major Domo to buff the Amalgadon line. Then you saw that, I can add this Whelp Smuggler to get an extra tick from the Major Domo as a play. And you had the 2 Master Realities. So the first turn, right, you had this set up. Master Reality gains +10 in stats out of nowhere. The Amalgadon's getting, to perfect dawn because you're Janus. It's getting the same amount of stats almost as well, right? Plus the extra health from the Whelp Smuggler. Just absolutely disgusting. There was really no other option in that game to really have a chance of survival, but you see this one line and you go for it, you commit to it. And I was like, is it not strong enough? But you reassured me that, oh yes, double master with the scaling with the Major Domo will be enough stats. And boy, impressive. Very very nice play there. Yeah, so.
Well, thank you, Collins. That's but that is a extremely good example of where the co-op turns a potential 7th place into a 1st place game.
Yeah.
And that's all you need, right? Like to climb in that very harsh environment where every loss is brutal, and every win is not even that great of an advancement. You almost need a string of 1st and 2nd places to get anything done once you're in the top 25. Regardless, yeah.
It's really tough, at least as a climber, just to have that consistency and having someone there to like turn one bad game into a good game. Like it's crazy good. Yeah, it's so huge, right? Like, oh yeah, because one loss is like sometimes 2 wins, so maybe 2.5. If you're taking 2nd place in the count, right? It's like 3 games or so. So
yeah, I'll put it in perspective where a bad loss will be -120. And a win will be around 70.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a little under 2 wins per 8th place.
Yeah,
and then of course once you get 3rd, that's 20 points or less. So it drops off dramatically fast after 1st and 2nd.
Yeah, so it can be super tough, right? And just like also the mind shift of like a bad game, right, can also like linger on, right? Where like I know this happens to me a lot because I'm very streaky. When I look in my games, it's like first, eighth. I don't want to play again, right? Because they're it's funny, right? Like I could have like a huge first win rate, but if I have 2 8s in a row, the chance of the next game being horrible is like extremely high. Though if you look at like statistics, there's no like statistics will say, it doesn't make any sense. Each game is
start doubting.
Yeah.
I even saw like XQN, arguably the best player that plays the game right now. He had 2, for his standards, bad Millhouse games, which were both, like I think one was a 4th, one was a 5th or a 6th. And you could really see him like evaluate, should I buy this? Do I need to level it? So even someone who has that much reassurance that he's a baller, an amazing player, all it takes is 2 bad games in a row to make you think like, am I playing this correct? And that doubt immediately, that kills your game. Like if you want to get first places, you need a killer instinct. You need to see the shop and say, I know, right? I push here, I level here, I buy that. I don't buy this trash. I need to roll for good cards. I know this is what I need to do. And the moment your confidence dwindles, you're going to make a lot more purchases that you wouldn't have bought otherwise. Because you're like, it's okay, I guess. I kind of want to win the next round. I don't want to take too much damage. And then 2 turns from that, your comp, you look at it and it's like, what happened? You didn't spend your gold properly. And now your comp is trash.
I know that feel for sure. Yeah, it's definitely something that can hit the very best of us, and something I probably need to work on at times. So like the plan is to like stop playing or play a different account if that happens. That's what I should do, but sometimes I'm just like stubborn. I just like run it back.
Yeah, that's another thing, like where I do like having 2 accounts for that reason, so that even if you lose on one account, you'd like, okay, well, that was a bad day there. I think I had a day where lost 400 MMR on one account, but then the other account is still high, and then you can earn it back. I think for the next part, it'd be nice to maybe do some more technical stuff of like, okay, we hear a lot of how you guys have been playing, but what have you guys been playing? Like, what have we been favoring?
Right.
What have been some interesting decisions that we've been making, things that are reoccurring. I think that the first thing to say is to come back to the Jeef curve, where
the Mech Juggler lobbies, right?
Like
the game's fundamentally different when those 2 are together, and then when Mech alone is also a fundamentally different game, and then no Mech is fundamentally different. Like it's so crazy how you're playing a different game when these 2 are in. You're playing a different game when just mechs are in. You're playing a different game when there's no mechs. Like it's like, oh wow, So and then even when mechs are out, then there's like different metas in what's left in. Like, oh, you can have no Murlocs with no mechs. Oh, okay. Well, demons, things are just really good. Oh, mechs and dragons are in. Oh, well, maybe the answer to the mechs that people are going to be forcing is just like run this dragon combat, put a random pressure in AI auto win. There's a lot of like different like techniques within the metas that have arisen just due to the power level of certain minion types, right? Like, oh yeah, this is a dominating one, or this is a dominating one, or this is a dominating one. You have to adjust because this is in. So
yeah, go ahead.
We can start off with the Mech Juggler, since that's like
there's a couple of things. There's also the the pirate mech lobbies where you have a reform curve,
the 6 drop, yeah.
So let's cover them. So the initial one Collins already mentioned is a Mech Juggler lobby allows for some crazy good synergies where you're essentially trying to get a board full of divine shields, and then you'll have Gem Splitter, Grease Spot, and Ground Shaker. I was going to say Earth Shaker because you always say Earth Shaker.
I always say Earth Shaker, yeah.
Shaker. Yeah, that's translation. Ground Shaker equals Earth Shaker. And honestly, you get the point. Once you have that up and running, it feels like cheating. I'm going to be honest. Like if you have, like just picture this board, guys. You have 2 Deflectos in the front. You have a reset with a module on it, like 3rd or 4th. And then we're talking a random shield. So this might be a Grease Spot with a module on it. That's usually best. So let's say 2 Deflectos, reset, Grease Spot with a shield, and then your other cards are another Grease Spot, a Golden Gem Splitter, and a Ground Shaker. And then every fight you're getting, let's say 8 or 10 gems based on, does my deflector reset? Do they attack my deflector before my gem splitter kills itself? So, 8 gems for sure if you have 4 divine shields, of which 2 are taunted. And then that just turns into, so you're telling me that I have this entire board of mechs, or half a board of divine shields that is scaling itself with a grease spot every time they lose the shields, so the deflectos can double dip if they get attacked before the grease spot dies. And then all of that gets supported by this huge attack boost from the ground shaker. You're pretty much only losing to very, very specific things. You're losing to tokens, or you're losing to Prestor. Those are the 2 things that beat you. Prestor is the dragon that will ping your shield off, so that's obviously very bad if you rely on shields. And tokens are very good at dealing with multiple shields, multiple bodies. So we're talking Mama Bear Rat Pack. We're talking multiple Omegas with a Baron, or Omega with a Baron and a Kangaroo. They keep just printing tokens, and they keep getting your shields for free. Anything else almost is pretty much just.
There's also the Omega high roll that you can always lose to that. So just keep that in mind. Someone has like
macro
double macro, but like someone's playing like Millhouse elementals, right? Like they're just too big, like at some point, like
okay sorry, when you said Omega high roll, I thought you were referring to a buster. I was like, that's weird. I just talked about that. You're talking about someone with an obnoxious
not the Omega or whatever.
Okay, so that's a little confusing, right? But like we're talking like stupid amount of stats that can happen to you. But let's be honest, every card you're playing with is a tier 4 card, so you should probably be able to lose to someone that got an insanely big Master of Realities, or has perfect scam comp with Eliza, etc. That can always happen. But that is the bread and butter, I would say, of what we've been doing, because it is incredibly consistent, and the pieces that you need for it are very easy to get. So this is, I would say that one of the things that I do well is, once I identify what the goal is, I can let go of a lot of the things other players have preconceived notions about.
Yes, you do this well.
I will just say like, okay, well, this is what we need to do. Okay, well, all these things you used to do, that's good. Like, let go of that. Like, this card is not good anymore. You don't need to buy the token here, right? That's what we do with Jeeve Curve. Like, we say, okay, I need 2 good units and 1 thing that I can use to sell. So that will either be on the 5 gold turn you will need to level, and then you have 2 gold left. So either you get a Swabby for Swabby level, you get a cat so you can sell the cat level, or you get bacon to buy the bacon, sell the bacon. And that's one of those things that you very early just put in your mind, like, okay, well, this card is not good because I don't need it. This card is good because I need it. And then it also just makes it a lot easier to find the thinking outside of the box line, where if you're not married to a way of playing. So it might also be very ugly to someone who's very comfortable with the game and like, oh no, we've always played like this.
I do this pretty well, the outside the box lines, where it's like, like randomly I buy the Rat Pack and the Bird Buddy, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I do that. Well, look, I have another body pair. Oh, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, I got the triple da-da-da. Omega Buster. Oh, I can get out of oh, my beast.
Get in the box.
Back into Mech. Let's go. Da-da-da. That's me.
Back in the box. That's good. Sometimes you got to take a little detour outside of the box, but hey, the box is pretty good a lot of the time. So.
It's like Omega Goldrin, and you're like, fuck the Goldrin. Exactly.
Okay. All right, so that's one part of it, right? Anything to add to the essence of Mech Quilboar lobbies?
Well, a nice thing, at least something I learned, is like just being able to stay on 4, right? Opens up some like consistency in that, there's a lot of like decent things you can pick up on 4. If mechs are in, right, that means that Frank's very good salvaging unit, right? You always want to
whole podcast on Frank. But
Frank should definitely be a topic of its own. I do agree.
Let's do that soon.
Yeah, some time. Sometimes if you get like a random,
not everyone was watching the
Oh,
stream.
right.
So
What is a Frank?
it is called a Meccano Tank, but we call him Frank because he's Frank the Tank. There we go, easy. So the Meccano Tank is the Mech Juggler. For those of you who are like, what the hell is a Meccano Tank? So it's a card that I don't think you saw enough early on. Now people are catching on a little
I
bit.
still don't see it enough, in my opinion,
No,
but I
it's
agree.
it's a juggler that works with anything.
Anything, yeah. It's so stupid.
That's powerful. So, you know, you have an acolyte. That's amazing. You have like menace. Like, oh man, he's a pew pew pew, and it just every time you look at the board and you say, surely we're not gonna get there. Like you get there because you get like. You know, they have this big minion where conventionally you say like, oh my God, I never kill that minion. Frank is just like 6, 12, 18, 24. Right? It adds up so fast, right?
Yeah.
4 shots. That's 24 damage. There's not a lot of big guys early game. I've got 24 health or more. So he just goes to work and lasers them down. So that's been a really good minion to stabilize with. If you have a game where you have to rush to 4 because your shop on 3 was bad, one of the best cards you can see immediately out of the
Frank.
gates is,
Yes.
Frank,
we're saved, yeah.
Yeah, we're saved.
We're not dying instantly,
yeah.
So true. So yeah, I definitely do think that's really important, and just being able to stay on 4, and like if you want, you triple into a Meccano, right? Meccano opens up like another whole composition that you can add in, right? Sometimes you just go on 4, you triple on 4, get 2 Meccanos. You're like, well, this is really consistent here with my composition, right? It just makes your composition jump to another level, right? You get those first places. So there's a lot of power in the safety of the mech comp, where you have that Quillbore mech core strategy, but even through that, you have a lot of stabilization. You have a lot of like power plays to do, right? You can taunt a Meccano if you want. There's no elementals for the Wind Fury and things like that. So really like adding that in there as well. That's all I got to say.
All right, cool. So what's the next one we tackle?
Just mechs.
Maybe just mech?
Yeah, just mech alone.
So if the Quillbores are missing, that's a big part of that combo gone. But mech still inherently gives you a good reason to go to 4. Because as we mentioned, Frank is there, Meccano Tank.
There.
You can still just play a regular mech comp where you have Deflectos with Grease Spot and resets. That still works fairly well. And if you have a high roll, you will have a very good board for Omega Buster. So the high roll could be, oh, you know, I have these 2 grease spots, and oh, I find this 3rd grease spot pretty fast. I will level to 5 to make the discovery at tier 6. Damn, Omega Buster, boom, let's go. We're off to the races. Now you have a full mech board that can take advantage of that. If you're playing the mech Quillbore variant, Omega Buster does not feel as good because, you know, it doesn't do anything for a shaker, it doesn't do anything for your jump spitter.
Yeah.
You're also you're playing. You're kind of not really discriminating between shields. So you have this elemental shield, you have this dragon shield, and you look at this buster and be like, it doesn't do that much.
What I knew something had changed, and like, oh, maybe I play with Shady, or like my mindset is different. When I had like this Omega Buster, like, and I'm just like, wow, this sucks. I'm going to remove it from my board, and I'm just like, what happened? Like this never, I would never do this like a week ago. But damn, I was like, damn, things have changed, you know, like in terms of my play there, you know, I was like, oh, well, just remove it. It doesn't help me here. Like, I need a win. Like, so it was very interesting where I was like, okay, well, just a little tidbit of like, just the mentality shift throughout the week. So, but, you know, keep moving on. I like adding like random tidbits of
no, it's good. Like, get some interjections. So I guess, you know, we don't have to do this like super linearly, just explaining why that makes a difference. I fundamentally think, or I think that the game is fundamentally different with mechs out. I think mechs are the most defining tribe.
And I think that's 100%.
Yeah, and that's not in every meta, but I think that's in most metas. I think in previous meta where we had this insane Doomsayer Frog stuff, of course, if beasts and demons aren't in, that's the most influential thing. But I think in most metas, mechs are the the bridge between tier 3, tier 5. It's like, okay, you go to tier 4 and it's a stop. You can sit there the entire game almost if needed. And that is just not the case in non-mech lobbies. So if you are in a non-mech lobby, I call them high roll lobbies because that's pretty much you high roll or you die, because there is no super defensive option. There's a couple, sorry, like there's juggler, right? So if
Yeah.
demons and mechs are out, that's pretty scary. But you know, like maybe some beasts with a bird buddy, but you run out of
Weaver,
options really
maybe.
quickly.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
you the so fundamentally when mechs are out, you are trying to triple into a high tier minion, or you need to have a specific hero with a specific game plan, right? We're talking Flurk, shuffling some Murlocs. We're talking Jandis, shuffling her tokens. But if you do not have a specific game plan and you are in a non-mech lobby, you have to find a way. You have to look for something. So you have to look for either triples or you have to roll into this juggler lineup, because those lobbies are very fast. Because some people hit and they are, you know, in a more traditional lobby where mechs are in, you will have someone that hits, but then they fight this Quilboar mech guy and they're like, sometimes even taking damage, right? Because they're like, oh, this tempo guy is actually pretty strong. I'm taking damage here. But if you are in a non-mech lobby and you are someone that hit and you are fighting someone that doesn't hit, a lot of the time that's damage cap right there. Right? You have an Eliza, boom, damage cap. You know, an Eliza that runs into a bunch of Divine Shield mechs, maybe not enough to carry, but you have a board full of trash and the other guy's got an Eliza, yeah, that's going to be damage cap.
Yeah, you know what the worst feeling is? You don't hit, right? And then some Reform goes out in 8th place. And then the damage cap's off and you're just like, no, I'm against you. No, this disgusting dude, he hits you for like 28. And you're just like, why did you die?
That was me today, 100%. That's what Collins is referring to. I'm just saying, like, he tripled into a 5 and he got a mirror zone. So yeah, he's dead.
He's dead, yeah.
He's super dead. And then the Rafam dies and we fight the high roller and we take, this was a Ysera that power leveled and had like 2 Caligos obscenely early, and we couldn't get there. They had this insanely high HP Taragosa. So Frank was just like, I'm working on the Gosa, but he couldn't quite get there and nothing died. We took 28 or 26, game over.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the experience. That was a mech lobby, by the way, but that can still happen where if you haven't hit yet and you come up against someone that's a super high roller. So now we almost feel entitled to that damage cap because we're so used to it. And if somebody dies too early, you say, what are you doing? You're ruining my game.
The game has changed fundamentally because of damage cap. Yeah. Like the Shutterwalk curve, right? Without damage cap, you die. You'd almost never always die, right? But with the damage cap, you're like, okay, take the damage, right? Best feeling is being at 31, right? Like you're at 31, you're like, yeah, you're so strong, yeah, you're so safe. So there's a lot of gameplay that people have adjusted to just because the damage cap is in. It's almost like it's so weird, right? Because the damage cap is not supposed to be doing this. That's not the purpose of this damage cap, but because of it, now people are like, oh, I can level here. I ramp here. I just ramp 2 turns. I'm safe. I'm good. Yeah, and it's just like, I thought the damage cap was to prevent high rolling, right? You know, prevent people getting killed.
It just makes it safer to go up. Like the amount of times I've pushed early 6 on Millhouse since the damage cap is drastically higher.
Right. Yeah. So
anytime I'm 30 health or more on Millhouse, I'm just like,
it's so easy.
I'm going up here.
Yeah, it's so easy to just like, yeah. And that's just like, it feels wrong because it's not the purpose of the cap itself, right? It's to solve a problem, but you're adding this whole other dimension of problems in there just because you want to solve, like, and it's not an intelligent, like an elegant solution, I should say.
Yeah, you just forestall the problem, but at some point someone's gonna die, and then the floodgates are open because then you're up against these boards where you do deal like 32 damage or something stupid when you're a Shutterwalk or you're a Jandis that was able to power level because you had no fear. It was just like no fear whatsoever. If you can greed it to the max, and you can, a very competent player, if you can give him the information, you will not die. no matter what happens this turn, you will not die. You get a, oh wow, that changes everything. Let me go this, let me do that, let me do this, let me hold this card.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd say that the most beautiful illustration of that, I call it beautiful because the play itself was strong. We were up against, I believe his name is Honimbo, who's a very strong player on the U server. We were Shutterwalk and they were Jandis. And they held like something like
Oh
4 or 5 triples in
Oh,
their
I
hands
remember
against
that.
us.
Yeah, I
Their
remember that.
entire board was just Bran, Khadgar, and a bunch of cats.
Yeah.
That was the board.
Yeah.
Because they said, I got damage cap and I will never beat the Shutterwalk anyway. So let me just take 15 and then next turn go off again. So this is, if you're not familiar with Bran Khadgar transitions, the purpose there to hold is that they haven't committed any of their 6-drops on the board. So now they can have another turn of playing Murloc Tidehunters and Alley Cats, printing even more triples, and then they put their 6-drops on the board. Now, before the damage cap, you could do this and be like, whoo, if I hold here and die, it's really bad. So you'd have to play 1 or 2 6-drops just to make sure you wouldn't die because you were in such a good spot. And they got there because they, you know, we were Shutterwalk and we had 2 or 3 6-drops.
Yeah, they
but they had like 7 or
they
8
had 8.
Yeah, 8 6-drops. You know, like you're not gonna compete with that. I think they played like they started off with like a golden +1 regular buster or something crazy. It was, you know, like they never had anything less than a golden Omega buster. So that's a pretty silly board. Anyways, that's a bit of a sidetrack, but it's good, I think, to bring this up regularly because, as we mentioned, the damage cap is an inelegant solution to a deeper problem, which is some heroes are able to high roll too much. And I think fundamentally the problem comes from being able to triple tokens. I think if you look at all the perpetrators, so you're hooked up, you got your Janus, you got your Shutterwalk, right? All these heroes have one thing in common. They can print triples with tokens. And it's very difficult to see like, man, this Edwin just came out of nowhere. And like, it's like, no, that doesn't happen, right? You don't have these like insane boards with these tempo heroes.
So that's interesting. Yeah. Are you thinking about, instead of removing tokens, you just make tokens unable to triple?
Yeah, just or just make the golden token not make give it a triple, right, or something like that.
Oh, not give it a triple,
yeah. So this is obviously me, as you know, I'm not a balancer, I'm not a coder. I don't know if what I'm asking is impossible, right? Like with what they have, but if that would be a way to do it from a game balance standpoint, even though I will be honest, a lot of this, I'm guilty of this. I do this bullshit on a regular day, right? Like. It's to the point where if I am playing Reno, I will hold an alley cat in my hand and be like, man, if I hit a brand, boom, right, I'm just going off. I'm printing triples. I'm just, you know, I do that all the time. It's also good for Golden Mama Bear on the side note. So I use / abuse this mechanic all day, every day, because it's very strong. And I think it's also fun for the person executing it, but it's really not fun for whoever is playing a fair hero at that moment to just out of nowhere fight someone with 7-8 triples. And this has gone down a lot. I agree, right? We nerfed Khadgar, we put in the damage cap, this and that, but all these changes are not necessary if you just would prevent tokens from being able to triple. And the essence of the game is not gone when that happens. The game just becomes a little bit more pure, where you don't have this bullshit that, for the most part, it's just for experienced players. A lot of the, you know, more novice players, they'll do more harm than good when they start playing around with Khadgar and like, oh shit, I didn't sell enough minions, or I'm dead here, or this or that.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. Yeah,
I say that with very little self-interest, that would probably be the most logical way to, you know, balance the game, where the damage cap would be largely unnecessary.
Yeah. Dude, the game would change again if you like remove the damage cap. I'd be like, but I want to play safe. I want to play. I want to level here. You know, I'll be thinking about it, which is funny. But yeah, so we've talked about mech quote lobbies. We've talked about just mech lobbies. We've talked about no mech lobbies, and then even within no mech lobbies, there's things that matter too, like whether Murlocs are in. I think that's really important. Whether beasts are in, right? Because sometimes when there's no mechs, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna curve get a 5, right? What 5s do I want, right? And you're like, Mama Bear is probably the easiest one to like. Okay, I hit a Mama Bear, I know exactly what I'm doing now. Whereas some of the other ones, it's like, Know me, is it good here? Am I playing Millhouse? Do I have a refreshing? It's not as crystal clear. Like, will I die if I commit to know me at this point?
The tribe heroes there have a huge advantage, right? In no mech lobbies, just for that path is so clear. Like I brought the example up, and we've talked about Flurg, but man, it's so good to play Flurg in no mech lobbies. Holy crap! You just you look at the screen and just like no mech. Oh, I got a Flurg. Oh yes, oh, that's so good. So it's crazy how that hero went just from nowhere to probably like my top 5 heroes I'd like to see in this particular screen. So very just anything with a game plan, huge advantage in the no mech lobby.
Yeah, because you don't have to worry about, will I not find a line and then die, right? Because that's usually like always an issue in this game, right? When mechs or cobras are in, it's like, okay, I'm rolling on 4 for like 4+ turns. Like I'm gonna roll into 1 divine, I just I'm gonna get a game plan on at some point, right? But when you don't have that like safety net, it's like, well, okay, did I get a pair? Did I do this? Did I do that? There's not a lot of like safety in that, and you can hit the 5, and then the 5s are useless, and then it's like that's
what the Rafam did, right? The Rafam went for 5, got a Miro, and it's like, oh, I'm dead.
It's dead, yeah. There's so it's not guaranteed. Getting a triple isn't a guarantee that you have a game plan at all, right? So it's just nice if the hero is like, here's a game plan from the beginning of the game. You don't have to worry about this problem that you have in this particular lobby. So it just helps a lot and really makes them a lot more valuable when you know that you have a fallback, right? Like you don't have to force the minion type that they give you, but it's a lot easier if you're getting like a free dragon. It's a lot easier to be like, yeah, well, I can force this if I
playing dragons.
Yeah. So it definitely does help there. So those are like the 3 main. There's a lot to talk about even within them, but like the podcast is actually pretty long already. So hit an hour already. So yeah, but that's those are the types. And you did kind of mention in like, you want to talk about what we bring to the table. And
I think one more to quickly cover is the mech pirate lobby, where you have heroes that have easy access to
tier 6 drops. Yeah. Is that different? I guess I kind of subset that with the mech only lobby, because it's like, but that is true that mech pirate gives you like the 2 best, like pure, you hit 6, and this you got this one. I know exactly I'm gonna stabilize, and then I know what to do as well, right? Like, because there are like Caligos doesn't do that, right? Like Caligos is a relatively good 6, but it's not like, okay, I hit a Caligos, I've stabilized. I'm not taking damage. How do you people die with that?
You're not behind you at that point.
Yeah, so that's very true, right? The Eliza and the Omega Buster, right? They're the plug and play, you've stabilized, and then you also know what your comp is as well. So they're really really great.
That's why I love Eliza, and the Omega Buster is just another one of those where power right away and scalability. Find the Baron, find more hits. So then that would be a Maiev, Rafam, Omu, just any hero that traditionally has an easier time getting a 6 drop.
Very, very, very.
All right, take it away. You were moving ahead.
I was moving backwards, because you did.
All right, moving back.
You did mention you were kind of talking about some of your skill sets and some of mine, right? I really think Shady's really good at knowing we need to do this. Like, if we want to survive, we need to do this. We're going for this comp. How do we get there in the best possible way, right? Okay, so I see there's Mech Quilboar lobby. How do I make that consistent? Like, here's this. How do I make it consistent, right? Where I would look at that and be like, well, we'll get there and we'll make it work, right? Like, that's, we'll get there, we'll make it work. She's like, okay, how do I force myself in the best possible position to get in the best possible percentage plays that I will always be able to run this consistently, So it helps. He's able to refine, like, fix the curve, fix the thing, and find like, okay, I need this, I need this, I need this by this point. Once I'm here, then I need this by this point. Once I'm here, okay, I need this by this point. And I'm like, what about level? And like, there's no point to level. It doesn't do anything. There's nothing you can hit. You need this. And I'm like, that is very fair. You know, there's no point in level. You know, Well, here, I'm very good at, okay, so we have no game plan. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Okay, you haven't thought about this? Okay, if you think about this, now you can think about this. Okay, have you thought about this? Okay, we've thought about this, now think about this. You could do this. Because you're thinking about this now this is available to you. You can do this whole line because you now thought about this one play. You know, that's something I do a lot, where it's like, okay, so there's 1 minion in the shop. Okay, that opens up. Okay, if I get this 1 minion, now this minion actually becomes playable. Now that we have this playable, we can roll for this minion. Now, order correct. Make sure you get the order correct. But now you can now have a completely different board that's significantly stronger, opens up different lines that you couldn't do if you're stuck in that rigid composition, or that rigid, we need to do this. So I just kind of open up flexibility and making sure that you're considering every option, every play that has a percentage chance to be the best play. While you're like very clear at like, this is, 80% of the time always the best play. So I'm going to be very good at making sure that whenever the 80% arises, we're doing the 80%, where I'm like, okay, there's a 20% here. Have you thought about this? There's a 10% here. Have you thought about this? There's a 5% here. Have you thought about this? And at some point it's like, oh, this 10% play actually makes a lot of sense in this one particular position. You look at the board state, you look at the opponent, you look at the leveling curve, you look at what your opponent's going to be, what the enemy board states are going to be. This 10% play actually makes a lot of sense, Collins. Let's do that. And it's like, all right, let's go. And I think that really helps a lot, because those 10% to 20% games, they fix a lot of the, like, those random 7s, those random 8s, where you're just casually doing something, your consistency, your rigid play, but something went wrong. You got unlucky somewhere. So now the 80% is now falling a little bit. It's now becoming like, 60%, right? But now the 20% is actually kind of rising a little bit. It's like, 30%, 40%. And once you get that, that tension there, like, this actually starts to make sense here. Then you get that, okay, so normally we do this, but now here in this spot, we can now do this transition. And now it's beautiful because, okay, we've solved this problem. We've solved this game. Crisis averted, right? We're not getting 8th here. Now we're getting, top 2 instead. Those feel really good. So I think that helps. And just as well, just being good players, right? In case someone feels scared or like, not confident in play, that reassurance, like, yeah, this is a good play. Don't worry about it. It looks weird. It's a good play. Don't worry about it. And then just having that, like, oh yeah, this is a good play. Don't worry about it. It's just very nice to smooth out those like rough, not confident plays, like inconsistencies where like normally if you're playing by yourself, you might like fall into a trap of like, I feel weak. I have to buy this. No, you don't have to buy this. Like, let's just roll, that kind of stuff. So I think those are the kind of things we bring to the table, making sure everything works together to have the highest % chance that you get the first place, if it was even possible, with the rolls that we got. Yeah. So just a clarification.
I think that sums it up really nicely, where I am more I guess I'm more the boring player in some regards, and you're kind of more the superstar, where you're like, all right, I'll just wing it, I'll make it happen, and it's really good to combine those two styles, because you have, I can tell you like those percentage lines where like, be disciplined here, don't do it, but sometimes I'll be like, God, I'm not gonna get there. And I feel like when I have the feeling of like, we're not going to get there, I have the lifeline that is Collins, to be like, all right, let's find a way to get there. And that is super nice. I do that. That is my standard approach to playing pretty much any game. I will always look for where there is a disproportionate return on investment. So there was this meta where Arm of the Empire was insanely strong. And back then, I've grown so much as a player. Back then, I would say that I was somewhat limited as a player, and I still got to very, very high rank by almost just forcing that composition, because there was just a realization there that this is too strong. So you play this and you find a way to make this happen a lot of the time. That's what Collins refers to as like, oh, 80% of the time we can get to this particular composition, and then, like just refine that, like make the process very streamlined. And to then indeed have someone there who is taking care of when that scenario doesn't happen, that takes it to the next level.
Yeah, and I do something very different, right? I will be okay. I'm getting first this game. All right, I'm getting first this game. All right, I will like look for how do I get the strongest possible board as fast as possible when no one has a chance, right? Like, it's a lot of games I'll play and I'll be like looking at my board and I'm just like, what happened? Like, this board is ridiculous. It's not fair, right? But that's because I'm like not going for the streamlined play. I'm going for like, okay, so there's a 10% chance I get the best possible board possible, right? And I'm like, okay, we've got a 10% chance to absolutely smash this game. Let's take it, right? And then 90% of the time it doesn't work. But then because I'm so used to being in the 90% scenario it doesn't work, I'm able to salvage, right? So I become very efficient about how do I salvage. And then some games I just auto win, right? I just win for free because I went for the high roll, got the high roll, Omega Buster, Golden Omega Buster. Okay, let's it's like turn 9, Golden Omega Buster with a Baron, right? Like, okay, well, I mean, the game's over, right? So those do happen, right? But then a lot of times they won't, right? But I'll be able to salvage, Okay, I'm tier 6 or tier 5, whatever, I have one turn to get strong. Roll. Okay, I found it. Okay, I salvaged. I'm good, right? So doing that over and over, right, you get quite efficient at doing that, right? So when I play with Shady, it's like, okay, we're not there, but then it's like, okay, we need a high roll or something. All right, let's look for it. Let's look for the high roll. It's got to be there somewhere. Or it's like, we don't hit the stuff. How do we salvage? Shady, what about this? We can salvage here. Right. So those two extremes, right? I got you covered, but then in the straight, the consistency there, you got me covered, right? Like, it's like, okay.
I think that is probably one of the biggest strengths that I bring to the table when we are playing is the amount of times I've pulled you into a roll and delayed a level 1 turn, where you look at the board and be like, oh my God, we would have taken 15, and now we're killing the guy. So
yes. That's so
my
true.
Ability,
where I would go for the 6, take 15, and then I have to salvage in 1 turn. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Oh man, that's so true. Where you're just like, nah, don't take 15, just roll, and then your board's insane, and then you don't have to salvage. It's fine.
Yeah, and then you can just level and not take damage.
Where I'm like, I'll just take 15
alone is not enough. So yeah, it's really good. All right. Anyways, we've praised our synergy a lot. I guess the audience gets it, and it's also just fun. I think
it is very fun. That's so true. We didn't even talk about it, but it's so fun, dude. The days go quick. You're enjoying yourself. It's nice. Every day is enjoyable. You have a bad game, Shady's there like, it's fine. It's just whatever. I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. So
yeah, just having someone there as a sanity check is also great. Where he's like, that was bullshit, right? Yeah. Like, we did the right play. Okay, cool. Or someone said like, well, no, I guess we
could have done, we could have done this. Yeah.
So that's always good, because if you're on your own and you're playing and you get this nasty loss, it's so easy to start questioning everything.
Yeah. And it's fun.
That was, for sure.
Well, yes, that is our discussion. We will most likely, we will be playing together more. I've got some time this month, so yeah, we will continue doing it, have some fun, try to get as good as possible, because that's really the most important factor in climbing. Just being good, right? If the number really doesn't matter. If you're good, you will climb, right? If you're better than your opponents on average, you will climb on average. So as long as we just become as good as possible, we should be fine. But yes, that will be our podcast for this week. Sorry for the claps. I'm actually super tired, but doesn't really feel it, right? Yeah, like damn. Yeah. But
it's like you get adrenaline, right? And then when the adrenaline wears off a bit more, then you get that like, oh wow, I was actually really tired.
Yeah. But thank you guys for joining us this week. I actually forgot to upload last week's episode, and I'm sorry about that. And I know, Shady. I know. I've been bad. And dude, it's because I've been tired. You know, and, like I end the stream, and I'm like, damn, I'm drained. I forget to do it. You know, the days go fast. I just forgot. But yeah, I'll make sure that I get that done this week, you know. Like, I didn't even know it was Thursday, man. Like, I was like, what? It's Thursday? What, already? That's crazy. So, that shall be it. Thank you guys for joining us. You can find us at the website with the thing. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care of yourselves. Have a lovely day. Make sure you rest. Apparently, it's really important. Shady knows that already, but, you know, I was just figuring it out this week. But, take care of yourselves and see you later, folks.
Have a good one, guys.
Yeah, I'll make sure to get this and last episode. Yeah, and last one through. Like, yeah, I've been bad. So yeah, but yeah, thank you guys for joining us today. I'm probably gonna watch Worlds, and League Worlds is on. You know, and I always catch up on that whenever it's up. You know. Always fun for me watching my team lose over and over every year. That's apparently I like it. So, but yeah, anyways, take care of yourselves and have a wonderful rest of your day. You got anything else to do? You're going to bed? Well, gonna jam some more games. I hear you, Shady. Yeah.
It's 6 right now. I usually try to stay up until at least 9:30 or so.
9:30. Okay. All right. Sounds good. But
all right, guys. See you.
Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful day.